What makes you think Paul's Jesus is different, if you will, from the others?
Okay. Well, I had noticed in 2 Corinthians 11:4 that Paul says, look out for people coming preaching another Jesus. And so I was thinking about that. And then, and I also noticed Galatians 3:1, where Paul says to the Galatians, who bewitched you to be thinking that Christ wasn't crucified? Wait a minute, Christ wasn't crucified? What is this? And interesting enough, 2 Corinthians and Galatians both talk about people, somebody, some group, preaching a different gospel. The words are almost exactly the same. So who's preaching this different gospel? What could another Jesus mean? Well, what do we know about Paul's Jesus? Hardly anything. He doesn't tell us about Jesus, except that he was crucified and he was resurrected. Well, another Jesus might be a Jesus who wasn't crucified and resurrected. So are these guys, Paul's opponents, the guys from Jerusalem, perhaps James and Cephas, or Cephas, however you want to pronounce it, and John, preaching a Jesus that is not crucified? And then you see in 1 Corinthians, he talks about the crucified Jesus is a stumbling block to the Jews. What Jews is he talking about? Well, the Jews that he's opponents of. And Paul in Galatians 5 and 6, talks about the stumbling block of the cross. Now, Paul keeps talking about his opponents want converts to get circumcised, and that's what's emphasized all along. But it looks like the real basis is that they don't believe in a crucified Jesus. The uncrucified Jesus is coming direct from heaven and is going to institute the kingdom of God that is governed by Mosaic law, and everybody is going to have to follow Mosaic law strictly. Paul's trying to do away with Mosaic law, but this is the crucified Jesus, not for just the Jews, but for all mankind. In Galatians 5, what is it exactly? Paul writes, if he's now preaching circumcision, as his unnamed opponent has claimed, then the stumbling block, scandalon, of the cross has been removed. So apparently, there's a letter from the Galatians to Paul where they say, we hear that you're now preaching circumcision. And he said, oh, really? I didn't know that. But if I'm preaching circumcision, then the scandal of the cross, the stumbling block of the cross, has been removed. If I'm preaching circumcision, then there's no crucified Jesus. So it's circumcision, preaching circumcision equals preaching no crucified Jesus.
What can we know about these guys from Paul? What's Paul saying they believed?
Well, they obviously believe in salvation by works. That's right there at the beginning of Galatians. Did you receive this by faith, or did you receive this by works? He's talking about his gospel. And so they believe seem to be believing in strict adherence to Mosaic law. And why would you need to be Mosaic law if you've got a crucified Redeemer who made an atoning sacrifice? I don't know. It doesn't quite make sense.